Hello students, welcome once again to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to read another chapter from your English course book. Let's check out the title of the lesson. Here we have Chapter 10, Early Days. Ponder. Match these magical creatures with their names. You can see a mermaid, elf, fairy, dwarf. Did you know there is a bronze sculpture of Peter Pan commissioned by Barry and made by Sir George Frampton, display in Kingston Gardens in London? 6 other casts made by the original artist have been erected in other locations around the world. Do you believe in magical creatures? How would you react if you came across a magical creature in your room one night? Discuss. The story of Peter Pan has been retold by Daniel O'Connor. Peter Pan is a fictional character created by Scottish novelist and playwright J. M. Barrie. Peter Pan is a boy who will not grow up. He runs away on the day of his birth so that he will not have to become a man. He lives in a place called Neverland, which is the home to the fairies. Intrigued by the stories told by Mrs. Darling to her children, Peter Pan is attracted to the Darlings' home. On a visit to the children's room, Peter is nearly caught by Nana, the dog who is the children's nanny. Peter manages to escape, but his shadow is left behind. Now, read on to find out what happens. On the evening on which our story begins, Nana was dozing peacefully by the fireside with her hat between her paws. Mr. and Mrs. Darling were getting ready to go out to dinner, and Nana was to be left in sole charge of the children. Presently the clock went off with a whir and struck 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Time to begin to put the children to bed. Mrs. Darling comforted the children, kissing them very tenderly as mothers always do, tucked them up in their beds, sang them to sleep, and leaving the night lights burning for company, crept softly out of the room to go to the dinner party with Mr. Darling. Everything in the big nursery was now still and quiet. Suddenly the night lights flickered, went out one by one, and there darted into the room a tiny ball of fire, which flitted uneasily about and finally vanished into a jug. There was just one click. The window was opened, and the little creatures stepped in cautiously. He seemed to be looking for something, and you will easily guess that what he was looking for was his shadow. Tink, where are you? He whispered, and then as the light shone on the jug, he went on, Tink, do you know where they have put it? How do you think the little creature has lost his shadow? What did Mrs. Darling do before living with her husband? Now this little ball of light was really a fairy girl who knew everything worth knowing. Most fairies do. All you could see of her was the little flame, but you could hear her distinctly She made a tinkling noise like a little silver bell, and that was why she was called Tinker Bell. Tinker Bell at last rested a few moments on the second drawers of the nursery dresser. Instantly the boy ran joyfully to it, and pulling open the drawer, snatched out his shadow, neatly rolled up, just as Mrs. Darling had left it. He had found it certainly, but the next trouble was to put it on again. A happy thought struck him. He would stick it on with soft, sitting on the hearth rug. He soft his feet, and then he soft his shadow. But whichever way he soft, they would not stick together. There is no use in having a shadow if it will not stick to you. After trying and trying in vain, the poor little fellow gave up the attempt, buried his face in his hands, and sobbed despairingly. We have some words and their meaning in the box. Waned, became weaker, darted, moved suddenly, flitted, moved swiftly and lightly. Hot rug, a rug laid in front of a fireplace. Now let's continue reading. It was then that Wendy awoke. She sat right up in bed and, not at all frightened, said, "Little boy, why are you crying?" Here you can see the picture of Peter Pan, and you can see the shadow, and Peter Pan is trying to fix his shadow. The elfin creatures sprang to his feet, and taking off his cap, bowed very politely. Wendy curtsied in return, though she found it a difficult thing to do in bed. "What's your name?" asked the little boy. "Wendy Mora Angela Darling." "What's yours?" "Peter Pan." "Where do you live?" "Second turning to the right and straight on till morning." Here we have another word, curtsied, greeted by bending the knees with one foot in front of the others. Okay, now let's continue. What kind of a girl do you think was Wendy? What is your opinion about Peter Pan? This seemed to Wendy a very funny address, but she was all sympathy when she heard that Peter had no mother. No wonder he was crying, but that was not the reason for Peter's tears. He was crying because he could not get his shadow to stick on. This made Wendy smile, and she emphatically declared that soft was no good. It must be shown on. "Shall I do it for you?" she suggested, and jumping out of bed to get her work basket, she set to work at once. It hurts a good deal to have a shadow sewn on to your feet. But Peter bore it bravely. It was the right thing to do, for the shadow held on beautifully, and Peter was so delighted that he danced up and down the nursery watching it, making patterns on the floor as he flung his arms and legs about. Now let's see. Prepared. What is a shadow? Do you think it is possible not to have shadows? What would you have if Wendy failed to stitch Peter Pan's shadows? Discuss in groups. Practice comprehension. You have fill in the blanks with words from the text. You have to read the text carefully again and try this. Answer these questions with reference to the context. Let's read out the questions so that we can better understand the text, the story. Tink, do you know where they have put it? Who is Tink? What is the speaker asking? Does Tink know the answer? Little boy, why are you crying? Who said this? Who is the little boy? Why was he crying? Answer these questions. Who is Nana and what does she do? What happened when the light went out at the nursery? What was the little boy looking for? How did Peter try to attach his shadow? Was he successful? What happened when Peter started to cry loudly? What address did Peter give Wendy? How did Wendy help Peter? Was Peter happy to get his shadow back? Give reasons. Perfect vocabulary. Suffix. A suffix is a letter or a group of letters added at the end of a word to form a new word or to change the grammatical function or part of speech of the original word. For example, teach, verb plus er suffix equal to teacher, noun. Read, verb plus able suffix equal to readable, adjectives. Using suffix y, er, able, full, en, est, y is a suffix that is used in many words, meaning made up of or characterized by. For example, healthy, dirty, juicy. Er is used with many verbs to make nouns meaning someone or something that performs an action. For example, helper, painter, teacher also. Next, we have able is used with many verbs to make adjectives. For example, readable, breakable, full is used to make examples of adjectives that mean full of or characterized by something. For example, painful, beautiful. En is used to form adjectives of source or material from nouns. For example, golden, wooden. Given below are some root words. Add a suitable suffix from y, er, able, full, en, est, and then use each word in a sentence. You have to try this. Pick out words from the lesson to which suffix have been added. You can try this after reading out the text again. Use a pencil while doing so. Grammar. A modal is a type of auxiliary helping verb that is used to express ability, possibility, permission, or obligation. Can is used in the following ways. Ability, Samir can swim. Permission, can I go to play? May is also used in place of can't sometimes. Offer, can I help you? May is used in the following ways. Possibility, it may rain tomorrow. Permission, may I borrow your pen? Should is most commonly used to make recommendations or give advice. It can also be used to express obligations as well as expectations. Advice, you should eat your meal on time. Obligation, you should return the library books on time. Expectation, my father should return in time for my birthday. Must is used to say that something is necessary or Very important. Something is likely or logical to recommend something to someone because you think it is a good idea. Necessary. All students must reach school on time. Likely or logical. You must be tired after playing all day. Recommendation. You must practice regularly to do well in the tournament. Complete the sentences using a suitable modal verb from can, may, should, or must. You have to try the exercise. Here, fill in the blank. You can check out the examples we have just read. These modals can be used in their negative form as well as by adding not. Cannot or can't, may not, should not or shouldn't, must not or must. Choose the correct options. I was unwell for a week. You have to choose can't or must not eat anything from the roadside again. Like that. Try this. Next, we have the performed writing. Imagine yourself to be Peter Pan. Now write a letter to Wendy, thanking her for helping you stick your shadow to your body. You may start like this. Dear Wendy, I hope you are well. I'm fine, especially because I have now got my shadow back. Thank you for. You have to continue from here. Try this. Listening part you can exempt since we don't have the passage with us here in the text. Speaking, telephonic conversation. One must follow telephone etiquette while making or receiving a call. It is important for everybody to speak politely over the telephone. Always remember the following points. Speak clearly. Speak loud enough so that the person on the other end can hear you, but don't shout. Remember to use courteous words like please, thank you, and excuse me. Don't interrupt when the other person is speaking. Pay attention to the conversation. Don't forget to say goodbye at the end of the conversation. Hang up the phone gently. A walk in pairs and enact a telephonic conversation where you speak to your friend's mother and leave a message for your friend who is not at home. You can try this at home. Now students, let me summarize the lesson for you. Let's see. One evening, Nana was left in sole charge of the children. Mrs. Darling comforted them to sleep and left for dinner party with Mr. Darling. Everything in the big nursery was now still. Suddenly the night lights flickered, went out one by one, and a speck of shimmer vanished into a jug. Another little creature stepped in from the window. His name was Peter Pan, and he was looking for his shadow. He went to the jug and asked the little ball of light, which was actually a fairy girl named Tinker Bell. Peter made a lot of noise while he tried to stick his shadow by using soft. He tried in vain, then soft when he felt. Just then, Wendy woke up and asked the elfin creatures the reason for his tears. She smiled and said that the shadow must be shown on. Once Wendy helped Peter with the shadow, he was so delighted that he danced up and down the nursery. Nana is a dog and is the children's nanny. When the light went out at nursery, a tiny ball of fire, which was actually a fairy named Tinkerbell, flitted into the room after Peter Pan. The little boy was looking for his shadow. Peter Pan was looking for his shadow. Peter Pan tried to attach his shadow on with soft, and he wasn't successful. Wendy woke up when Peter Pan started to cry loudly because he wasn't successful while trying to attach his shadow on using a saw. Peter Pan address was second turning to the right and straight on till morning, which was quite unusual and funny to listen. Wendy helped Peter Pan by showing his shadows onto his feet. Yes, Peter Pan was happy to get his shadow back. He was, in fact, so happy that he began to dance up and down the nursery. And that's how the story ends.